Yo, I got a 1998 four-wheel drive Ford Ranger in here, and this thing's got about the poorest excuse for a four-wheel drive system that anyone could ever imagine. I'm sure the engineers that designed this thing are trying real hard to forget about it. They made it for a couple of years and they scrapped the idea because it's really, really dumb. But I got a bad wheel bearing. I need to replace it. Now, before I just go diving right into this thing and tearing it apart, the first thing I like to do with these systems is make sure that they work, because they usually don't. This is a vacuum operated system. This four-wheel drive doesn't work without vacuum. There's a lot of vacuum problems with these because it's a really poor excuse for a design. I can see somebody cut this line and shortened it. They didn't put an extra extension in here. I'm probably going to end up doing that. It's too short. But I like to check these and make sure the seals are good in them and everything, because there's a seal back here that goes bad all the time. And if you want the four-wheel drive to work, you might have to replace that seal. And what I do is I get a Mighty vacuum sucker. I put it on here, and well, I broke this thing about 15 years ago. Here, I can actually see the needle now. I broke this thing about 15 years ago, the pump on it, but I still use it. And you basically want to hook it up to this vacuum line. You want to pull vacuum on it. You can see that needle moving a little bit. That means it's working. This thing, they never hold vacuum very well, really, but they do a little bit, so you can kind of tell. If you actually want to engage the system, you can turn it on just by running the vehicle and pushing the four-wheel drive button, and it'll put vacuum into this line, and they should engage. You probably don't want to do that though, because these four-wheel drives, these lockouts, they unlock by some form of spring-loaded magic, and they don't do it on their own. You actually got to drive them for a little while for these to unlock again, and you want this unlocked when you take it apart. If this seal in the back is brand new, it should hold vacuum a little better. It's a constant vacuum leak. These things kind of work like a diseased prostitute. You know, you put money into it and it does the job, but after you use it, you'll never be right again. I guess that's the best way I can explain it. So yeah, I think this works good enough. He actually said that this four-wheel drive worked last winter or something, which is very amazing. So I just kind of took his word for it. When they're this old, I can't believe that the seal back here has not been replaced. It probably has. Anyways, I'm just going to dive into it and I'll show you what to do. You got to do all of this to replace the seal in there too if you want to fix your four-wheel drive. Now these tabs, you always got to lift up at least one of these tabs and pull it up, and that they're really brittle. They break all the time, and if anybody's ever been in here before, you'll probably always see at least one tab that's broke. And there it is right there. So somebody's been in here. And if you break one of them tabs off, you can just get in here with a pry bar and just pop this thing out like that. And that's your lockout. And there's an O-ring here that seals vacuum, so you need to reuse that. Be very careful with that. Yeah, you don't want to damage this seal, because if you do, you're going to have to go to Ford and get one. They're usually always okay. I'm going to pull in this caliper just a little bit. And I got a 15 millimeter on here. I got 2 bolts for this I got to take off. I'm going to hang this out of the way with a bungee cord. I got 3 18 millimeters on this backing plate. One of them's all rusted out. I'll have to do something about that maybe. There's an 8 millimeter on the back of this spindle for this that likes to break. And that one didn't break. Amazing! If it breaks, I just get creative with the zip ties. And you got all kinds of clippy things I got to get off of here. And it unplugs up here. Wow, crunchy. It's fun. I pulled it out of the hole up here and now there's no hole. It's just a big rust hole. Well, it's a hole, but it's not going to work anymore. Big rusty hole. That's what this truck is. It's a big rusty hole. There's a silly little dust ring on here that I'm going to want to unbolt so I can get at the wheel bearing bolts a little easier. I think there's only 2 of these. I unlocked the column too so I can turn the wheel to the right and the left. And on a lot of these Fords, if you turn this steering without it running too fast, it blows the power steering cap right off the thing and you get power steering fluid all over the place, and then it makes a horrible grind and growling noise for a while until you pump all the air and crap back out of it. So if you ever got to turn this, when you unlock the column and you turn this, it's a good idea to go real slow. Now you can kind of push this ring back a little so you can get at these bolts. Those are 15 millimeters too. And it's a good idea when you take these bolts out to make sure that the steering knuckle is straight so the tire would be pointing forward, because you want this axle to be as straight as possible so you don't mess with the seal. But for right now, since this is going to be rusted in really bad, I'm not going to care and I'm just going to take the bolts out. When I put it back on though, I'm going to make sure it's all straight. Well, for the rest of this procedure, I'm going to make sure that this hub is straight. And the people that engineered this, they thought they got a bright idea from a piston pin or something. There's a spiral lock in here, and there should be a little tab. I got to get in here with a pick, and there's a tab in here. You gotta find the end of the spiral lock and pop this out of here. And I just got a 90-degree hook tool. I'm just going to go in a circle and pull this out. Just work this thing out of here. Usually, unless somebody does a wheel bearing, that's the only reason why this stuff has to get taken out. It's for that dumbass seal. There. See, that's a spiral lock. I don't know about these, but with piston pins, when you put them back in, you want to stretch them a little bit. You just grab both ends like this and you give it a little tug so it kind of stays open like this just a little bit, and that'll help you put it back in. You'll see the snap ring junk right there for a snap ring pliers. I don't know, I don't have one the right size for this, the right length or whatever. So I always just take them out with a pick. I've been taking them out with a pick since the beginning of time for this piece of crap. So I'll just get in here with a pick of some kind. You can tell it's been all butchered, somebody trying to get this thing in and out of here. Yeah, I'll just take like my angled pick and I'll get under the back of it. And I'll take another straight pick and stick it in this hole. I'm going to try to get this thing out of here. Because it's really stupid. It's a really dumb thing. Dum-de-dum-dum. There we go. See, I got it just a little bit. And I can just go in a circle and pull this thing out. You might want to take this thing out before you take the 3 bolts out on the wheel bearing too, but this thing's so rusted in I don't even have to care. I'm going to hammer this thing out of here. Just like that. And there's the big dumb seal. Just want to be careful not to damage it. And if it is damaged, if you need to replace it, you can pull it out, just destroy it and pull it out this way, and you got to clean this up as good as you can. Make sure there's no rust and crap. I got to clean this all up, and you just push it right back in that way and get it the same depth, and then you can put all this back together if it needs that seal. Thankfully, I don't have to replace that junk. Now the sealing surface is kind of a mess. This taper right here, you want to make sure that this is clean, clean, clean. Just on the inside of this taper too, you got to make sure it's rust free because there's an O-ring on this bearing and it's got to fall in, it can't roll back, and it's got to seal. Here's the old piece of junk, and there's the O-ring right there. It's all rusted to hell. So I need to clean that surface so that goes in really nice. And normally these aftermarket bearings, for some reason this O-ring is kind of loose. It's not real tight like a factory one. It's just a little loose, so you got to make sure that goes in square and it doesn't curl up and get pushed back, because then it won't seal. So I'm just going to try as hard as I can to clean this junk pretty good. Get as much rust out of here as I can. I'm going to make sure that seal is good and lubricated. It's good and lubricated. I'm just going to get in here with a rat tail file, and I'm going to clean up this tapered edge and just draw file it with a rat tail. Make sure that seal's going to fall in here real good. I don't want any sharp rusty burrs catching on that O-ring. Now this O-ring, I put a little silicone paste on it. You can use grease or gear oil. Just make sure it's nice and lubricated. And I notice this bearing, this roller bearing in here, there's no grease in it. Sometimes they come packed. This one's not. It's dry, which is no good. Pretty simple thing. I'll just take a grease gun and just squirt some in here. I don't know, 3-4 pumps or something. I'm just going to push it all right through the bearing. You got to push it in there enough so it goes all the way to the back of the cage. I'm just going to keep pushing it in and pushing it in until I feel it's good enough. And I feel it's good enough. I'm going to make sure the wheel speed sensor is in the right location. I'm just going to push this in. I'm going to square that up real nice and make sure that seal's seated. I'm going to hold this in there so it's square the whole time. I'm going to start all these bolts. Now for this sorry excuse, for a sorry excuse. Make sure that goes all the way in. Then the spiral lock is a blast. Now what I do, I got a little hook pick. This one actually broke and I had to sharpen it. But I'm going to try to get back on the back side of this and try to get under it. Try to work this stupid thing. It might frustrate the heck out of you, but you just got to get that spiral lock over that lip. And then once you think you got it, you can just go around in a circle and just keep pushing it in. I've seen people make mincemeat out of this. Turn that thing into hamburger trying to get this thing back on. This one's kind of butched up a little bit as it is from the last guy that worked on it. Okay, I got it. Okay, this O-ring's nice and clean. I can put this back on here. Put a little silicone paste on it. If this doesn't want to go in, you can just kind of turn everything until you can get this thing to slide in the way it's supposed to. Just snap it in. It's not coming out. It's dumb. There's the dumb thing. Bolt the thing to the thing. They give you new clips that work pretty good some of the time. Well, most of the time. I'm not using them. I'll use the original ones so I don't have to pull them out of the frame. I just got a chunk of 3/16 steel brake line I'm going to use for this. I found a little longer bolt in a Honda valve cover washer. Maybe I can screw this down a little better, keep it from flopping around. Little Ford Gay Ranger fabrication. There it is, the Gay Ranger Ford fabrication. Fuckation. Got to make up all kinds of good words messing with one of these things. Now really, you should always make sure this works before you send it out the door. See, I'm turning it right now and the axle's not moving. I can unplug this vacuum line that either you can run straight manifold vacuum in it from the truck and just start it and run it and let it idle, and it should pull in, or you can turn your four-wheel drive on. But I got this goofy little vacuum air pump that people use for air conditioning systems that you use with pressurized air. I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to plug this thing in. I should hear an audible click. There, it clicks, and then it locks in. So that poor excuse for an engineering marvel actually works. And yeah, it's got some spring-loaded magic in the hub. You drive it around and it just kind of unlocks whenever it feels like. Might be in a second, might be a week, might be a month, who the heck knows. Might be never. I'm going to plug that back in, and there it is. The Gay Ranger Ford fabrication. Okay, bye.